video on YouTube after it's done. So every week, because I totally recognize like all of you, some of you are working and have other classes and it's a weird time. So I will record it. So you will not be penalized for not showing up. So yes, so start there. I don't know if Kim is on. Doesn't look like she is. Did you guys have your math meeting yesterday? That's my first question. If anyone has an answer to that. Okay, I'm gonna take that as maybe a no, but I guess that's the first thing. So this course, if you took ELT 120, it's the same situation. So you have a math component and an electrical component. So you are going to have two meetings per week, one with me, I teach the electricity portion, and then one with Kim, and she teaches the math portion. So Wednesday is your math portion, and there's this link in JetNet for just your math portion. And then on Thursdays is your electrical portion with me, and there's a link again in JetNet for that. Fortunately, all of you are on it, so obviously you all found that. But I think in the syllabus it says Tuesday and Thursday, but it is Wednesday and Thursday. So just note that. Okay, so I guess really quick. So if I haven't had you before, my name is Summer. A little bit about me. One, I just got back from vacation, so if I haven't responded to your email, just send it again. I might have missed it. So that's also why I'm sunburned. But I try to respond to emails within a day or two. Weekends, I'm a little bit slow sometimes. I do work full time. So I actually work for the state, a recent job. So it's been a lot of hours, but I work in the drinking water division. So I'm an environmental engineer. That's kind of how I guess I'm related to, or why I teach electricity. So engineers, we deal with electricity, physics, chemistry, all of that. So that's kind of how I got here. I teach a lot of alternative energy courses as well. That's kind of a big area of my expertise. Also in the past, I worked as a safety specialist. Are the no. So these meetings are not required. I'll explain that in a minute, but this first one is because I'm using it as attendance. So all of you here, I'm marking down because attendance is mandatory. So I'll explain that in a minute. But so yeah, that's me. I'm Summer. So you have my contact information. Feel free to send me a email if you're ever confused with anything. Like I'd be more than happy to meet at any time. So yeah, so okay, now we'll get into the course a little bit. So a couple of things I want to know about this course. So one, that question with is this required? So basically for this hour that I do every single week, I will go over the topics of that week. So for example, this is Thursday. So your week one content, you should be more than halfway done with, right? Because the week ends on Saturday, essentially. And so I will typically on Thursdays go over material that is relevant to the JetNet quizzes. So for example, for this week, it would be the week one quiz. So typically what I would suggest is maybe doing your week one JetNet quiz at the beginning of the week, your first attempt, because you get 2 attempts on them. And then you can come to this hour. If there were any questions that you got wrong that you need more clarity on, I'd be more than happy to go over those. If there's no questions, so that's the first thing I do is I'll answer any questions for the hour. If there's no questions, I'll typically go over a PowerPoint over that week just to kind of solidify the content that you were supposed to cover for that week. For this week, it's a little short just because there's a lot of information to go over. So, and I wanted to save time for questions. So you might get out early if there's no questions. But either way, typically these don't always last an hour if there's not always questions. So yeah, that's a little bit about how the courses run. Again, this will be posted on YouTube if you ever need to not go or you want to go. But yeah, so I'm going to pull up the syllabus and kind of talk about that a little bit. So something that, can you see my syllabus? Is that pulling up?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So something about this course, it's a little different to courses you might have taken in the past, is I do not set deadlines. So, and the reason I don't set deadlines is because I recognize, like myself, a lot of you work full time and it's sometimes you might have busier weeks. So I will not penalize you if you are late on a quiz or something like that. It's That's something I'll do, but bear in mind, because of that, a lot of students in the past have waited until the last minute. And there's a few things that I would definitely not do, and there is a big one. And the reason I would not wait till the last minute is one, I have to enter attendance every single week. And the way that I enter attendance is if you come to these meetings, you automatically get attendance for the week. So all of you automatically get attendance, or you have to be active on JetNet. So I can see everyone's activity to make sure you're doing everything. So if you're not, you will not get if you are not, or if you're not active on JetNet, or if you don't come to these meetings, you will not get the attendance for that week, which I think jeopardizes you to get dropped from the course. So that is why definitely make sure that you're on top of everything. So there's a lot of information, and this course definitely, like ELT 120, builds on itself. So it can be challenging. The first couple of weeks are pretty easy. It's pretty like basic information and like definition type stuff, but you have to understand that in order to build a foundation to understand like the later content. So looking at the syllabus, again, these are the times. So 6 to 7, we're meeting Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesdays with Kim, Thursdays with me. Here's my contact information. There's Kim. So if you have any math related questions, I would ask Kim. And if you have any electricity related questions, you can ask me. So prerequisite for this course, all of you should have taken ELT 120 and received a grade of a 2.0 or better. If you did not, definitely let your advisor or me know, because that is a requirement here. So the grading scale, this is not something I choose. I think it's definitely an interesting one. So 94% is what you need to get a 4 point, which is pretty high, actually. So, but hopefully I can do as much as I can to help you get the grade that you want. So the other things to note here, so for this course, there's no textbook you have to buy. Amatrol, which I'll talk about in a minute, is essentially the only other platform you're going to use besides JetNet, which I will show like the course content and how it's ran in a minute here. So basically just keep in mind your census state. If you want to drop this course, let me know, send me an email. This is the main thing that I would keep in mind. So the grading procedure. For this course, there's 3 components of your grade. The first one is the electrical quizzes on JetNet. So those are the ones that I typically, since it's worth a big chunk, these are what I talk about typically in my meetings. I'll talk about the content related to the quizzes. Then you have your math quizzes is another section, and then your Amatrol quizzes. So essentially your grade is comprised of 3 different areas of quizzes. I want to say that there's an electrical quiz and a math quiz for every week. Some weeks might have 2. Amatrol modules, which are essentially like electricity simulations, are also in JetNet, and I'll show you how to get those in a minute. So the other thing to note here too, Amatrol, your Amatrol grade, so this 200 points means that there's 20 total simulations. Each one is worth 20. I think there's 10. I'll have to look at how many there are. But basically how I calculated it is each module, if you score a 70 or higher, you automatically get 100%. Anything below a 70 will be a 0%. And the reason that I do it like that is because I think for these Amatrol modules is it's pretty easy to get a 70%, but it's not easy to get 100%. And that's just because it's easy to miss a question or 2. So I think this is beneficial to you. So basically if you score 70, you'll automatically get 100. Also, if I can look through it, and if there's like a week that everyone's scoring, significantly lower, I will adjust that. So like I'll make like a 60 or higher passing. So, but definitely bear in mind that, because a lot of people, especially in past courses, have kind of left the Amatrol modules for the last minute, or they haven't figured out how to work it, and then it's too late. So make sure this week that at least you can open those modules. But okay. Basically that is the rest. I mean, that's pretty much how the course is ran. Here is just like, it's a 7-week course. We have Thanksgiving and everything in that. So just bear in mind that too, that, if you don't want to do any work that week, either stay ahead or you're going to have to catch up after. So, okay. So now to just skim through I'm going to skim through how JetNet is ran if you are not used to it, which Let me figure out how to do that. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to share the JetNet screen now, just so we all. Okay, so you should see, do you see the JetNet screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is what you should see on your end. So I'm just going to kind of skim through everything that was in the syllabus and a couple things, just so you know what to look out for and how to kind of operate this course. So at the beginning here, this, if you open this file folder here, you'll see that same syllabus that I just opened. You can click on these links, the electricity one for today, and then the math one on Wednesdays. You can click on those to automatically enter at the time at 6 to 7. So as you can see, there's two like segments for each week. So there's your electricity one and then your math one. So basically for this first week, all of this should be done. So for the math, there's two sections actually. There's one for, which Kim, I'm sure I'll talk about, one for triangles, Pythagorean, special triangles, and then one for trig, which you'll kind of realize how they interact with each other, but like trigonometry. So that is like, if you're familiar with math, that's like using cosine, sine, and like measuring different angles. And that is really important for the electrical component of this class, because when you're measuring like magnetic fluxes and things like that, you need to understand trigonometry. So that's kind of how the math and electricity kind of, they intertwine, I guess. So basically I'm going to talk about the electricity stuff. I'll leave it to Kim to talk about the math stuff, but I'm not sure. She did mention to me that I think she was having some trouble. So I did upload these videos for her. So these are basically Kim just explaining the week 1 content in the video. So if you haven't checked out those, definitely check out those. I just added those this morning. So that's this link right here. Okay. But for every week, you're going to have something like this. It kind of tells you what to do, which this really isn't that useful, but just a couple of things to kind of note here. So these videos right here are not done by me. They are done by my supervisor, and they're really, really beneficial. So these 3 are going to definitely mimic what is on this electrical quiz. So this one with the green icon, these are the electrical quizzes. So you can see every week you have 1 to 2, and those are part of your grade. These pink boxes, these are the amateur modules. So essentially on your end, you should be able to click one and then hit enter, and it should open the course. So one of the things that a lot of people do wrong here is they try to instantly open the quiz, because the quiz is the only thing that you're graded for. So your pre-quiz, if you get a 40% on that, I will not grade you for that, because it's a pre-quiz and I don't care what grade you get on that. So just note that too, that when we're talking on the syllabus about the amateur portion of your grade, it's only this quiz. However, you need to do the pre-quiz and this launch simulator in order to take the quiz. So I don't know if you saw my email today, but a couple of people have noted that these amateur modules, so this one's called timers, doesn't line up with the content here, and it should. So this is actually not the information that you should be learning. So like, because this is all stuff you should have already learned, like Kirchhoff's law, the idea of Ohm's law, voltage, current, resistance. So because of that, basically for this week, I'm going to give you guys all a pass. So a 10 out of 10 or 100% on this timers module until we can figure out why they're not linked up. So I already sent an email to the administrators to see if they can fix that. But so just ignore for this week alone, just ignore this timers one. If you already did it, that's fine. I'll adjust your grade so everyone gets a pass on that. But for week 2, hopefully we are able to figure out to relink this. So like this advanced systems, this is what it should be called. But if you hit enter, it's called combination circuits. So that's kind of what the mistake is. And I don't know why it's like that, but I can't change it on my end. So yeah, so I will send you guys an email to let you know when these are correct. But for now, just know that for this week, you don't have to worry about the amateur module on the electricity side. So just make sure you get this quiz done.
So to clarify, do we still have to take the test when you guys do figure it out, the amateur?
The timers one, no, because I don't think that's fair to you guys, because I mean, no, you will automatically get a 10 out of 10, don't worry about it. Because I
Alright.
think there's a lot of stuff to do and I don't want to have you guys be way behind because of an error that's not your fault. So,
Do you plan on replacing it with the one that's supposed to be there?
no, well, yes,
Okay.
I will replace, my intent is to replace that timers one with the one that's supposed to be there, just so you can look at the content if you want to, but you won't
Okay,
be
but we won't be
graded.
graded. Okay,
Correct, but you will, once we get it figured out, you will be graded for like
the remaining ones.
the new ones.
Okay.
And I'll send an email, as soon as they respond, which I'm hoping it's a quick, simple fix. Because I don't know why it's like that, but I'm hoping it's a quick, easy fix. But if it is not, I will be fair to you all, I promise you, and I will not make you do a ton of extra work on an error that's not your fault. But yes, so for now, just ignore this amateur module until I tell you otherwise. But either way, once we figure it out, your timers one is you got an A on it. Okay, so the other things to note, so I got a couple questions about Grab's book, which I didn't know what that meant either until I just figured out Grab's book is referring to these PowerPoints here. So this is just a PowerPoint that goes along with these videos. So when you are preparing to take this quiz, I highly recommend watching these 3 videos and looking at this PowerPoint. From my understanding and from like briefly skimming it, the answers are almost directly stated. So definitely to do well in the quizzes, the videos and the PowerPoint is crucial. For these here, this book, honestly, I think a lot of the feedback I've received in the past is that the book is really detailed and complex and confusing. So because of it, I just say it's a resource, but you don't have to, I wouldn't recommend just sitting down and reading it chapter by chapter, right? I don't think it's worth your time. So I think that coming here and asking the questions that you have, watching these videos, watching these lecture videos, and going through your amateur modules is the best way to succeed for the electricity portion of your course. So with that, is there any questions on how, any questions, I guess, before I get further into anything?
I'm good.
You're good?
I apologize if I missed this. I had some issues and I came in a little late, but are these Zoom meetings going to be recorded for later viewing?
Yep. So,
Okay, wonderful.
yeah, so it is recorded right now, and typically I will post them on YouTube. If sometimes like in weeks that are maybe easier or whatnot, there's not as many questions. So sometimes the video might be short. So I might only send you the PowerPoint that I go over, but typically, especially for these first few, I will send like an in-depth, or I'll send this whole recording over. So even this one I'll post for people who aren't here today.
May I jump in real quick?
Yeah, of
Thanks.
course.
Was there a math meeting for yesterday? Because I didn't see anywhere in the syllabus or anything like that, that there were a meeting for the math sections.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's what Kim was saying. Did you guys get an email? You should have gotten an
I
email
didn't.
from her. Okay.
I
So
didn't get a message inside of JetNet and I didn't get an email either. So I had no idea if I was supposed to attend. I didn't
Okay.
even, the only meetings that I've known about is the one for this class. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
taking down some notes. That's
I think she did mention that. So I think that's so we're both adjuncts, so we're not essentially like enrolled by Jackson College. So sometimes that can make like the administrative end difficult. So I think her issue right now is she doesn't have access to JetNet, so she can't
gotcha.
post anything and she can't see the roster. So that's why I just spoke with her this morning and put this link in here. So this is your math link for Wednesday. And that's why I posted these videos for her. So this is what she was going to talk about yesterday. So I'm imagining that if you didn't go and all of you saying that none of you got an email, that she probably didn't have it because she didn't have access to JetNet. So if you want to know what that week was about, watch these videos. And then for next Wednesday, just click on this link on Wednesday. But for now, I wouldn't worry about the video or the missing whatever was yesterday, because I don't think she had anything yesterday.
Okay, thank
Yeah, of course. But yeah, so, and she'll talk more about like how her sections are ran, but it's probably more simpler than the electricity portions, because like looking at her math, she typically only has the videos and then the same gen net quizzes. So, there's the math and electrical gen net quizzes, and then there's that additional Amatron component. So yeah, and the nice thing about all these videos being posted, if there's like a single component that's confusing to you, you can rewatch that video. So if you click on these links, it'll open up like a YouTube video of whatever it is talked about for that week. So there's definitely a lot of content to look at, but I know it's overwhelming too, because I think, there's a lot of information. So that's why I say for the electricity side, just focus on these lectures and focus on, this grabs this orange PowerPoint. I think that's the main important information. So yeah, any other questions?
I do know that circuit analysis 1 was set up with folders. There were, each week was in its own folder, and then you could expand that into what it is now.
Mhm.
Would you know how to do that? Because that definitely made it a lot easier to understand what I was looking at.
Okay, yeah, I'll look, yeah, let me see if I can play around with that. And
Do you have contact with Edward?
I do, yes.
Because I believe he was running circuit analysis 1. And I
Okay,
think
maybe
he set it up. You could ask him.
Yeah, yep, I can easily, yeah, I'll figure that out. It might take me a little bit, but I will figure out how to do that. So so like what you're saying is having like this, and this.
Yeah,
all
like
together.
it was set up in weeks. You would have week 1 math, week 1 electrical, well, other way around. But there were folders. You would click on it and then it expand into what you're seeing
All
here.
this, okay, yep, yeah,
With
I'm sure I can
given-
figure that out.
Okay, yeah, that'd be really awesome.
Agreed, yeah, it definitely can look like a lot of information, so I totally feel for that too. I think if you click on this tab right here, grades, you can see like all of the different pieces of your grades. I'm not going to click on it right now because it'll show like all of your grades. But so if you want to click on that tab, you can see exactly everything that you're going to be graded for. In addition, you can kind of click on the weeks that way if it's easier, but I will try to figure out how to folder it like you're talking, because I do think it would be easier. All right, any other questions?
No, can I fucking go? Come on.
Is anybody else having problems with the Amtrol?
Yeah, so is basically the only problem we have right now is that I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but these, what it's called, and when you click on entering it, it's not what it's supposed to be. So we are fixing that for right now, but can you not open it? Is that your problem?
Yeah, it didn't open, but something did open, and it's showing that I actually took the first attempt,
Yep.
which I actually didn't, but it wouldn't let me go any further than.
Yeah, that's what this issue is. So that's why I'm giving you a pass for the first week Amatron module. But yep, so that is what I am hoping that someone can fix for us. That's
once you open Amatrol, no matter what, it shows that you have already taken one attempt until it's completed.
yeah,
So that's what I think he's confused on.
no, yep, that's the issue too, but that attempt, like the content's still wrong. So even if you take that other attempt, it's still gonna be the wrong content.
Yeah, I get that.
So there's like 2 errors with it, but I'm hoping that once we fix it, it'll make it easier for everyone.
So no Amtrol this week?
Correct, no Amatrol this week. So I'll send you an email once it's hopefully fixed.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, my last call. Any other administrative questions or anything? I'm hoping that, this is clear to everyone. Because I don't want anyone to be confused later on, especially like I said, self-paced. So if I don't see your face again, if you choose not to go to these meetings, that's totally fine. But I want to make sure that like the guidelines are clear to everyone.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
So these sessions will be recorded. If we're working ahead and we're done by Tuesday or Wednesday, do we even need to, and as long as we have a really solid understanding, do we even need to, I assume we don't need to join, but do we need to watch it afterwards?
Nope. So I think that would
It's
be,
not required. Why would you need to watch it if you're ahead and you're passing? I mean,
It's just a question, bro.
yeah, you don't, that was a totally valid question. You do not have to watch anything. If you are totally clear on all of the content, that's totally fine. I'm not going to penalize you for that. So,
Okay, appreciate it.
so definitely just your quizzes and your amateur. That's the only thing that you have to worry about in terms of what's going to impact your grade. Okay. So if there's no other questions, if this week is like clear to you, you understand everything, feel free to jump off. I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint on a couple of the main components of this week. And I'm looking at like some of the areas that people were confused on or things that I got questions on. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. So like I said, if you're clear, everything's makes sense, feel free to jump off. Let me just open up this PowerPoint I have, and then we will go from there. Okay. So hopefully can you see my PowerPoint? Hopefully.
Yes, you can.
Perfect.
Yep.
So if you've already taken courses here, which hopefully all of you have, the electricity portion, definitely all of it builds on each other. So the first couple of weeks are easy and then it gets challenging. So the content that you should have going into this course is essentially you should be very clear on the difference between alternating currents and direct currents. You should be very clear on how to calculate all different components such as voltage, resistance, current, and also understanding like the foundations of electricity is very, very essential for understanding and moving forward in this course, because it definitely can get confusing and there is a lot of math involved. So that is something that is kind of another layer. So I know in ELT 120, there was math involved, but it typically wasn't. It was basically just simple algebra. So in this course, we introduced trigonometry, which I mentioned that briefly a minute ago, but that is like using functions like cosine, sine, tangent on your calculator. So they can be challenging, and that's kind of why, this course definitely can be difficult if you don't stay on it. So in week one, kind of the main ideas that are talked about is the ideas and the differences between electricity and magnetism. So that's kind of why I thought it was beneficial to break it down a little bit and give you a brief overview of what electricity is, what magnetism is, and then the relationship between the two of them. Because essentially the relationship between the two of them is the main idea and component of this course. So understanding what both of them are separately and together is important for this week. I think too, so if you are having troubles with understanding like the magnetic side of this course, definitely for this week, definitely look at that Grob's book, which is again, that orange PowerPoint on week one. So that information is really, really helpful and useful. So, and it's a lot of quiz questions are based off that PowerPoint alone. So look at that. So all of this should not be new to you, but basically what is electricity? So essentially something, the way that I would think about it as it's just the imbalance of electric charges. So we talked about that a lot in ELT 120, how the flow of electrons through a wire was essentially what a circuit was and how we created electricity. So the reason that we're talking about electrons is because electrons have a charge. So we know we have our atom and then our electrons float outside of our atoms and they have a charge. So they have a negative charge. So essentially that is why electrons are useful for electricity. And that's because this imbalance of charges, so having a negative charge and then having a positive charge, such as like in your proton, that is ultimately that imbalance is what's creating electricity. And ultimately it's just the movement of electrons, which in our, general applications, the movement of electrons through a wire, which goes through a load, like this example right here, which once the electrons hit the load, they light up that load, which in the most basic example is a light bulb. And then, that is essentially what electricity is. So, it can produce light, heat, motion, a lot of different applications there. So hopefully you all know that. Some ideas you can think about when you think of electricity, you can think of lightning. So, it can be something that's in the natural environment, or it can be electrical currents. So, we have like an outlet where we plug something in, that's an application of electricity, or we have something like a battery. So on this right here, I just think this diagram is the most basic, example of what electricity is, but it is important. So, we have our power source, which is our load, which you can see here. The power source is a great example of showing that imbalance of electric charges. So we have a positive side and a negative side. The electrons are flowing from one side to the other through the circuit. And then once the electrons hit something like a load, like a light bulb, those electrons are going to create that light bulb to light, and then it's going to continually go through that pathway, keeping that light open. So a lot of the applications you should know going into this course are the ideas of like open circuits, closed circuits, and what that can do to your circuit and different components of that, knowing how to calculate different branches, different junctions. So something that you probably don't have a background in, or you're not expected really to, is this idea of magnetism. So basically magnetism, we all know it as the two magnets coming together and they either attract or repel, but there's, a lot more layers to that. So ultimately it's just a physical phenomenon, I can't say that word, phenomenon that is created by moving electric charge. So that right there is a key way that they are related, electricity and magnetism. So one thing that's important with magnetism is the reason that we have that physical phenomenon is because we have something called a magnetic field, and that can induce charged particles to move, which ultimately creates an electric current. So this is a key thing that's important to remember, that like electricity, it is related to the attraction and repulsion of objects. So if we go back to this, we have a positive and negative side. And we talked about that a lot, how, like obviously having a positive with a negative is way more beneficial than having a positive and a positive. If you remember kind of towards the end of ELT 120, we were doing things like calculating battery loads, and we would do that and it would depend on if the two positive sides were touching or if it was negative positive. And if the two positive sides were touching, it typically lessened our load, which I can show an example of that or post one if that is confusing to you. But just knowing that, like electricity, magnetism has those same things. So it's related to the attraction or repulsion of objects. However, the difference between magnetism and electricity is that magnetism is related to different poles and not positive and negative charges. So all magnetic particles have something called a north or a south pole. So that is something to remember there. And we'll talk more about that in the future, but just knowing that when we're talking about magnetism, we have a north and a south pole. And also knowing that like positive and negative attract each other, south attracts north and north repels north. So the opposites are attracting and the ones that are the same are repulsing, which we know that because that's the same for electricity, right? Positive batteries are going to repulse each other. Negative, positive are going to attract each other. Same component, same idea there. So I thought this was a really useful diagram to kind of show. And it's this third layer we're adding in. So we talked about electricity, we talked about magnetism, but now there's this component of electromagnetism. So that is basically what this whole course is about. So electromagnetism. So the relationship between electricity and magnetism creates electromagnetism, which is very, very useful for modern day technology, for electricity applications, for essentially everything. And that is, a challenging aspect of this course. But so if you want to I'll send this to all you to kind of look at. I'm not going to just read through it because it's, I think it's pretty straightforward. I know it's a little bit blurry, but I'll send you all this. But I think that's really useful information. But this note that I have here is something that I do want to mention. So it's the fact that all electric currents produce some sort of magnetic field. So we're going to talk about this more in the future, but this is just something that I think is an important definition to kind of write down and just remember. So if you don't really fully understand what exactly that means, you know, in later weeks, we'll talk more about how this idea of a magnetic field and currents comes together, but definitely just note that down. And then, like I said, I'll send you all I'll send you this PowerPoint actually, but definitely just take a look at this because I think it's interesting to note the difference between the two. So I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but these are just a few of the main components of this week. And I wanted to talk about magnetic flux and flux density for a minute because I got a lot of questions about this and I think there's some clarity that can be used. So if you haven't taken the quiz yet, definitely write this down and ask questions if you haven't. So magnetic flux. On the right here is a diagram and something that you'll see a lot when we're talking about magnetic fields, and they look very confusing. But just know that right away you should be able to tell this is a magnetic field because we have a south pole and a north pole side, right? So you see the S and you see the north and you see all the lines that are just denoting, basically they're just denoting force. So magnetic flux is a term that we use a lot when talking about electromagnetism, and it's also a term that you'll use a lot when you have to do a lot of calculations. So magnetic flux is referring to the number of lines of force that are flowing outward from a magnet's north pole. So as you can see in this diagram, there are 6. So, and if you were to count these lines, you would get 6, and that's exactly what it is. So we measure those in Maxwell's, it's called. So as you can see, I wrote here, the number of, this should be of Maxwell's equals the number of lines. So I think with, when we're talking about magnetic flux, it's either measured in Maxwell's or it's measured in Webster's or something that starts with a W, but it's in the notes, but I think that is a quiz question. So just note that down. But Maxwell's is the most straightforward because it's, you know, just as simple as counting the lines. So that is what magnetic flux is. So again, it's just the number of lines that we have. Flux density, however, is a different term. And I think a lot of people are kind of mixing those up. So magnetic flux, again, just the number of lines you have. Flux density is how close those lines are. So that's why right here, so how close together the lines of flux in the field are. So for example, if you think of the word density, something that's more dense means that it's got more stuff in it, right? It's more compacted. So like something like a brick, right? It's got a lot of particles inside. Is a lot more dense than something like a pillow that has, you know, feathers in it that are like, you know, there's a lot of gaps between the feathers. So density refers to the amount of particles in a given amount of area. So that's kind of why if you're confused by that term, when you see flux density, it should make sense that like flux density is how close those lines are, because right, if they're really, really close, we should have a higher flux density because we know that density means things are more compacted together. So definitely note that. If that's confusing to you, let me know because it is important, I guess, the difference between both of those terms. So the last little thing here, just to kind of give you a overview of what's to come. So a Weber, not Webster, that's the other way that we measure magnetic flux. So this is just a different definition of magnetic flux. It kind of refers to like the more mathematical, technical definition of it. The reason I added this picture is I wanted to show you some symbols that are going to be beneficial to kind of remember and recognize. So anytime you see this circle with a slash right through it, just know that that is the symbol for magnetic flux. And then anytime you see WB, that's just the symbol of Weber, or the unit for Weber, and Weber, like Maxwell's, is just a unit of magnetic flux. So this is, you know, a simple calculation you might have to do. But just note that as you can see here, it's kind of cut off, but like a lot of what comes into play in later weeks is dealing with different angles and things like that. Like given that this is at 90 degrees, it's a pretty straightforward calculation, but you'll learn the difference between that going forward. But so yeah, so that's essentially the main components I wanted to talk about. Just again, know the difference between both of these. Know that if you're calculating the number of lines something has, or you know, counting them, you're counting the number of Maxwell's, which is directly proportional to your magnetic flux. So yeah, that's really all I had. I wanted to leave some time for questions in case any of you had some, you know, going forward and weeks to go. These will be a lot more longer and more in depth, but for this week, I wanted to at least save some time for questions. So if there's any questions on any of this content, let me know, or any questions about anything in general. I'd be more than happy to answer them. But oh, Kim, I just noticed you're on. I don't know if you want to talk. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I did talk about how this week you didn't have access to the JetNet. So you, I don't think you had the meeting from yesterday, right? Or I don't think.
Right, yeah, I was there and nobody came, which I get it, no big deal. So yeah, thank you. I just jumped in. My daughter reminded me. She heard me talking. I just finally, somebody from Lansing number, he called me off after hours, and what they figured out is it was my server, Google. There's something with Google, and I can't use JetNet through Google, probably because I'm using my school issued computer, and also, I guess, anywhere in Google, but especially with mine being a school issued through a different district. So I'm over here while you're talking, trying to get on, and I of course don't know my passwords because everything was saved under Google and it won't let me access. So I've got to call and reset. So I will be able to get into JetNet before the night's over.
Oh, good. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I put your link in there too. So everyone else too, like for those still on, or I'm also recording this, so I'll post the recording and send it to everyone. But
Cool.
so yeah, you can just click on the Zoom. You still do the Zoom, right? For like the math portion on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And somebody just emailed me and said he thought that he saw it on Thursday, and I'm not sure if he's on here, but I don't mind doing Thursdays after if everybody wants the same night, but I'll stick on Wednesdays. But if it doesn't work for you when I do go on Wednesdays for anybody, I'm in a parking lot waiting to pick up a kid every night, so I can get on.
For some reason, it does say Wednesdays for the math portion, or
Okay.
Thursday. For
It
both
does.
portion. Yeah.
Okay, that would make
For
sense.
and the math.
Oh, where does it say that? Just out of
It says
curiosity.
it on the link. Where you posted it, I think it says Thursday math
Okay, I will change that so it's not
to
confusing.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, and then when I get access, I'll put a note on there that just says, shoot me a time between now and next Thursday that works, and I can do a Zoom. I had a couple people send me some screenshots and we worked through there. So anybody that's on here, another way, but was the trig the first week? Is that what's up there?
I think looking at the JetNet, like the weeks, there's
Yeah.
2 sections. So there's one that was over like triangles, and then another one that was over trig. So it was like basically a lot of videos for week.
Okay,
One,
and then, you know
so-
what? And I think Eddie wanted it changed because when we condensed from a 16-week down to 7-week, or 14 down to a 7-week, I know he changed the course and said, let's throw that in there. So probably what happened was one was initially what we started with, but then he wanted trig. So I will drag and drop that and kind of make some announcements later tonight. Now that I got to just go and call and do that change password online. And I'll get in there and then I'll maybe send some announcements out and then kind of get everybody. The good thing is with a trig week, I go 1 extra week without a quiz. I made all the quizzes 13. And so we are actually kind of ahead a week. So we can really start next week as our first week with it. If anybody,
Mhm.
that way nobody's getting behind.
Okay,
So,
yeah, that sounds
cool.
good. Sorry, I wasn't sure exactly like the math side of it. Like
yeah, no
I
worries.
just carried over everything, but that's
Are we
good to know.
Are we doing triangles and trig this week, or are we doing one or the other?
So definitely want to start with triangles. I would not do both.
Okay.
I would start with triangles because, trig is built on our triangles. So I would just go ahead and do the triangles and leave the trig for the next week. But I did upload, or Summer, were you able to get those on there? Not that you had to, but.
Yep, yes, there's
Oh, cool.
a pages, and if you click on that, it'll show all 4 videos. And I think it's under week 1. I'm not sure if I put it under the trigonometry section or the triangle sections, but it's under one of them.
Awesome. So yeah, I just did an overview. So if anybody wanted to look at those, I kind of gave a summary of what those were about. And it kind of does combine both of them. I kind of went strong on the trig in case that was on there because I couldn't get in JetNet to see. So I feel terrible. I should have checked that before the first day, but I mean, I've been doing it for so long. I just kind of took for granted that it was all the same, but this damn security stuff is just screwing everything. So my apologies on that, but yeah, just do triangle and then we'll save time for trig next week.
Okay, so I'm still a little confused about that. Is there any way you could just send us in the email what we need to work on for that week?
Absolutely. What I'm gonna do, I still can't get into JetNet, so I haven't seen what's listed under the weeks. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be run like the same as Eddie, so I'm gonna go change my password. I'm gonna go get into JetNet right now. And then absolutely send an email and kind of just let everybody go at the pace they went at. You know what I mean? Like if somebody wants to meet before next Thursday, set up another, but let me communicate with you after I take a look at that. But if you need me tonight, I'm available too.
Okay, thank you.
Do you,
sure.
Kim, do you need the roster? Cause I can send that over if you need that, like to have. everyone's email.
I'm gonna go, as soon as we get off here, go change that password, because that guy called me, maybe an hour ago when I
Oh,
was driving
gosh.
home. And so, then I, like I said, I gave me dinner and my kids were like, Mom, you have to get on. And so I was trying to change the password and I haven't gotten as far yet. So, I'll be able to get to them here in just a minute. Oh, you know what though? Actually, can you? Because as a guest adjunct, I can't pull the roster as a whole. I have to go individually.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That would
I will
be
send you
cool.
it. That will be. a
Yeah,
lot
that would be
easier.
cool.
Yep, I will do that right after this.
Thank you,
Of course.
thank you.
Teamwork makes a dream work.
Right?
There we
There's
go.
no other way these days, I swear.
Especially online. I think there's a lot.
Yeah. And just when you think you get that online stuff figured out, man.
Oh, I know
Just
something
the
else
next
comes
day.
up.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
All right.
with that, I guess, are there any other questions for me or for Kim or for anything related to how this course is gonna be run, how these hourly sessions are gonna be ran? Like Kim said too, for me, like, I recognize this is at a late time in the day, so I'm more than happy to Zoom you, like, in the syllabus, I have the office hours as to be determined, or, like however your schedule fits, I'd be more than happy to Zoom you one-on-one to help you with an area that's confusing. Because I think, as this moves on and progresses, a lot of these electricity and math components can get difficult. So if you need that one-on-one help, we're here to help.
Kim, do you meet with people or is that
Absolutely. Are you talking about in person or on Zoom?
either way? I'm just really struggling with the math portion. I just haven't been in school for so long that it's
Yeah.
just
I'm
really,
glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I totally can. Weekends, I will meet with you guys. It's just my schedule is always fluctuating, but it would only be able to be evenings, well, all times on weekends. Well, I say that. My son is a basketball, he plays basketball tournaments on Sundays, and then my daughter does horses. So their schedules change, but honestly, if you, I can more than happy, and then Zoom anytime, because I'll always have my computer with me.
like, I wouldn't even mind if like whoever just said something, like we could all do it together if that
Yeah.
helped you. Because I
Yeah.
think, with more people, it would be easier and we could understand it better. That's
Absolutely.
fine with me.
Agreed. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. I hate that so I went online right before COVID. They put me into an online course, not because of COVID. And I was like, never, this is not an online course. So what I was doing was when Eddie would have labs, I would go in one night a week and just meet with everybody and do the math. Because really what I'm gathering is people are just getting the questions right because you can Google it or ask somebody. And I just hate to see that for people going forward, that it's not mastered, because it is detrimental, if it's not mastered, if it's just completed. So yeah, maybe what we can do is just kind of get an email thread going, and I can find out how many people want to do that. And then we could kind of try to find a time for everybody.
That would be perfect and so helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to do that. All right, I'll get that going. Let me jot down some notes. Oh. Email. And so are you guys all in Jackson?
I am, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I know a lot of times we have a lot of Adrian people, so I didn't know if we needed to make it kind of a middle place, but
Yeah, I'm in Adrian, but I'm not sure that I'll need to jump in on
Sure.
that at the
in
moment.
person. Yeah, and I can do on, I mean, when we're even doing that in person, I can even put the live Zoom on,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
and you can, join in that way if there's something you wanted to go over.
Yep,
So,
sounds good.
okay, awesome. I'll get that out. All right, everybody good with me? Any questions? I will be in touch before the night's end.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Summer, thank you for your assistance on all this.
Oh, of course. I'm glad you got it figured out.
Great, take care.
See ya. Okay, well, for everyone else too, if there's no other questions, feel free to go. I hope to see you next week. So next week I'll talk about week 1 or week 2 content, and then so come with questions. If you don't have questions, I'll create another PowerPoint, and I'll especially go over the questions that I see a lot of people are either getting wrong or are sending me emails about. So those are kind of the areas I'm going to focus on. So hopefully it'll make the quizzes and, understanding the content easier. So you're not just knowing the answers. I want to actually explain them so you understand the content moving forward. But it was great to meet you all, or great to see some of you again. So with that, I am done.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Summer.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Have a great rest of your week.